The St. Francis prayer to open our celebration of life for Jim, and better known in some circles as the 11-step prayer. It's found on page 99 of the 12 and 12, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you have a program, look on the inside, and you'll find the 11-step prayer written. Anybody need a program? And if y'all would like to join me verbally in prayer, please feel free to do so. Lord, take the channel of our peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgetting that one is forgiven, it is by dying that one awakens eternal life. Amen. I know that was one of Jim's favorites. Lance shared with me when she was looking at his desk and stuff, there were several copies of that prayer. I first met Jim in 1986, and I was in a really dark place. I was about to leave this world, either by my hand or somebody else's. And you know, when I say I was knocking on death's door, that's not an understatement. He told me a couple of things that I've never forgotten. One of them was, Sherry, you don't have to live the way you're living if you don't want to. I didn't know that. That was news to me. I didn't think I had any choices in the matter. And he told me, you don't have to ever take another drink again if you don't want to. You know, sometimes when you hear a truth, you just know it. And I knew what he was saying was true. Jim and I kind of grew up together in the rooms of recovery. He had about 3 years on me. And we've been friends for over the past 32 years. And, you know, and I loved him. He was my friend. He took me to my first conference. We went to 6 of us piled in his old van. I don't know, some of y'all may remember that old van. And on a wing and a lot of prayer. We got down to Waco, to the heart of, what is it, the heart of Texas? What is that one? And we had the best time. And I had never been to a conference before. And, you know, and that, there was so much laughter. I don't think my feet touched the ground for about 3 days. I mean, it was such a good time. And I found out that there's a lot of fun in life and in recovery. And I'm going to miss him. I'm glad y'all all here today to celebrate his life. Lana?
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
We're all going to miss Jim. My name is Lana Myers, and I've been a friend of Jim Welch's for over 30 years. I'm not an alcoholic, but I know an awful lot about him. Thanks to my friend Jim Welch. I also want to say thank you to everybody, especially my family that drove from Longview, and any of you that drove to get here. It's an honor for Jim that y'all are here, and I know he would be appreciative of everybody coming. So I want to thank everybody for being here, and then I want to thank Sherry, because if you knew Jim Welch, you knew that he collected everything. Everything, broke, fixed, fixable, unfixable, you know. So, going through all his personal belongings to be able to come up here and say Jim did this and Jim did that and Jim did this was quite the challenge. And Sherry, thank goodness, was there. We both were throwing papers out right and left that was just trash that we just didn't need for a couple of weeks. We probably threw about, I don't know how many 55-gallon bags full of stuff out, but we did. I kept a lot of his stuff so that I could read it and tell y'all some of the things about him. So, Sherry, thank you for your help. Linda, where are you? Linda.
Thank you.
There you are. Thank you for getting the building and your help, and Carrie for putting up with me and my corrections, and my friends and everybody that has helped us get this far with Jim's belongings. So, I'm going to get through this as quickly as I can because I know y'all want to get up here and talk too, and I'm going to leave you some time, okay? So here we go. I've been friends with Jim over 30 years, like I said, and occasionally he spent holidays with me and my family, and particularly my sister over here, Linda, and Jim Baxley, and I think he liked to spend holidays with us because he knew it would make me mad, because he would always tell me, I want to come down there and eat Christmas or Thanksgiving. Is it going to be at Linda's? Yeah, it's going to be there. And then I'd tell him, you're going to have to fix your own plate if you're going to act like that. But anyway, he loved her cooking. He loved to go to their house, and y'all loved him. And there were many years that I would say, come to Thanksgiving, come to Easter, you know, because Jim didn't have any family here. And the times that he refused, he usually told me, somebody needs to be at AA to open the doors. Somebody may need help today. And he said, this is just another day. So no, I'm going to stay and I'm going to open the doors. So we didn't have him very many holidays, but we did have him quite a few. And we're going to miss him for sure too. Not just me, but my family. Now, I'm going to share some facts that I found out about Jim going through a bunch of his stuff that I bet none of y'all knew, because I didn't know it, and I've known him 30 years. So the first thing I found out, I found his W-2s where he won. He picked himself 5 out of 6 correct numbers on the Texas lottery. The first time he won $1,740-something. Receipts for it's up there in that book with all the pictures. The second time he won $2,400. So after he started doing that, I'd call him and say, what numbers you gonna play? You know, let's get together on this. I was the bingo queen and he was the lottery guy. So yes, he did come really close to being a millionaire. He just didn't quite make it. Jim played football in high school and junior high and high school, and I guess he loved his football cleats, shoes, because to this very day, they're hanging above his dryer. They look like 2 hornets' nests, covered in, you know, spider webs and what all, you know. But we wasn't going to throw them away, and they're still there, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but forgive me, Jim, I am going to throw them away. So he lettered in football and baseball in 1946 and 47, which I figured that was the 6th and 7th grade. But when he got to high school, he became a band nerd, and that was a quote from him to me. I was a band nerd. And he kind of looked like a band nerd, and if you look at some of those pictures up there. He was a member of the National Thespian Society. He was also a member of the Elks Lodge. He became a Master Mason in 1969. He had a habit of taking things apart and trying to put them back together, and then when they didn't go back together, they go on this table over here, and they sat for 6 months till he was ready to get back to that table. Now right beside it might be another table with a gun on it that needs to be put together. I'm just saying. Am I not right, Sherry?
Correct.
Okay. He had 3 licenses at one time to race horses, one in Nebraska, one in Illinois, and one in New Mexico. All the while he was doing a pressman's job, a printer pressman's job in different areas out there. He loved to work crossword puzzles, and so did I, and as we became good friends, there were lots of nights when I would get home from work and he would get home from AA and he would call me and say, hey, did you get 10 down? And I'd say, oh yeah, well that's this or that. And we would finish our crossword puzzles out a lot of nights, In 1970, he got his beautician and cosmetician license to cut hair and I guess do makeup, I don't know.
I can't imagine that.
He donated money. He donated, I don't think he donated a lot of money, but if it meant he'd get a free pencil or a pen or a jacket or a flag, we got 6 flags off that desk just about, I think, in that one day that he donated to get those flags. You know, he donated a lot, and I think that was good of him. In 1972, he was in the Hella Shrine Temple Band, and they were the national champions, and they were also the state champions in stage production and in parade performance, which I thought was very impressive because we have band children in our family. Okay, in the obit, I left out one job. I didn't want to put it in the newspaper that Jim owned a bar because he was, AA. So if anybody's questioning all those jobs I listed as Jim, I left that out on purpose. And this will come up again. This subject will come up again. So I'm just going to say that here so you'll know. On 2 different occasions in Jim's life, for 6 weeks, I took care of him in my house. The first occasion was when he had a quadruple bypass, and he came home from the hospital with me. And about 2 weeks after he got to my house, he decided he didn't like my little dachshund. So he told me one day, that dog's bothering me. And I said, that dog was here before you were, and that dog will be here when you're gone. And he didn't really give me any problem about it. And that was okay. Okay, and so the second 6 weeks I took care of him was when he had throat cancer, and they replaced his esophagus. And at this time I lived in Longview, so I stayed with him up here till I could bring him to Longview, and then I brought him to Longview for 6 weeks. And I've always said that I should have gotten a certificate for that care I gave him. And then I didn't kill him. Because I know if y'all went to meetings with him, Jim could be cantankerous and stubborn, and I just didn't deal well with that. So he had to be nice to me, and he had to get his stuff together because every night I gave him a shot in the belly. And a couple of times he said, that hurt, and I said, good. And also, at the same time, every night I had to flush this tube that come out of his belly so that if he couldn't eat, I could feed him this stuff, and it went in. But he was eating. I was cooking him 3 meals a day, and he was getting fat and healthy, and he didn't need that tube, but I still had to flush it every night. And early on, I'll never forget, one night I was flushing the tube, and I was always just shaking. It just bothered me to be putting something through somebody's belly like that, And I was supposed to push, and I pulled, and food commenced to coming up in that tube, and I was shaking, and I was like, oh, Jim, I don't know what I got here, but we got something out of you, And he was like, push it back in there.
Oh, no.
So we did have some good times, even through all his illnesses, okay? Okay. Now, the night before Jim's surgery, the night before Jim's esophagus surgery, I was in town because I was going to be here for the surgery, and we had to be here at 5:50, Baylor at 5, so stayed with my daughter. And he called and he said, I need you to come over and bring a piece of paper. I need to tell you something. Well, first of all, you got to know that Jim wasn't going to have that esophagus surgery. When they told him he had throat cancer, he was done. He'd had enough surgeries, he'd had enough pain. He said, I'll just ride this out. And I said, no. If they can fix it, you need to have it fixed. I said, don't you want to live 5 more years or 6 more years or 7 more years? And he said, yeah. I said, all right, we're going to do it. So he did it, but he didn't think he was going to survive it. So the night before surgery, I went over to his house, and in fact, these are the notes I took that night with him. And he told me exactly what he wanted me to do at this little celebration, the songs, the food. I mean, we just talked about what he wanted after he was gone. And so this is what I'm going to do. He asked me to play 3 songs. And the first song I'm going to have Dana play. You got it ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The first song is Somewhere My Love, or Laura's theme. Okay? So go ahead, Dana. When Jim told me the 3 songs that he wanted to play, I would have said 1. Because I know these songs have meaning to him. So I had Dana print all the words out to these 3 songs, and I sat down and I studied them for a while. And I thought about Jim's past, and I always believed that Jim's true love was Gladys, the wife of his son Jason. Gladys got killed tragically. If y'all know Jim's story, then you know what I'm talking about. And Jim was always sad when he talked about Gladys. So I really think, because the last verse said, "There'll come a time out long ago, warm as the wind and soft as the kiss of snow. Till then, my sweet, think of me now and then. Godspeed, my love, to your mind again." And I really, and I called Sherry, and we talked about it, and I said, "Sherry, this has to be for Gladys." So this was his way to me to say goodbye to Gladys, and now they've met again, and I just think that's a beautiful love story. Okay, now then, if you know Jim pretty good, you'll understand the second song. And the second song is called "To All the Girls I've Loved Before."
DJ.
Does anybody know Jim? Do I loved a lot of girls? Okay.
Play.
So I read these verses several times too. So Dana, let's have that "To All the Girls I've Loved Before." Jim Welch wishes I'd keep my mouth shut.
He knows better.
But I knew him too long, and I knew too many that he'd been with. So, as I read this, I thought, to all the girls I've loved before, who's traveled in and out my door. Well, now you know there's a lot of them in that bar. Okay. Okay. And to all the girls I once caressed, and may I say, I've had the best. That's good to know. And then he says, to all the girls who shared my life, and who are now someone else's wife. So Sherry and I had to start counting. I said, "Hey Sherry, you know how many times Jim got married?" And she said, "Well, let me think." And so we surmised that 4 probably did it for Jim. So anyway, and then the last, she says, to all the girls who cared for me. Well, I felt like I cared for him over these 30 years. Anytime he's sick, just about, I cared to cook for him. My sister cooked for him. We were his family. But that second didn't fit me because it said, who filled my nights with ecstasy. I couldn't do that. I didn't. And then the last thing, to all the girls I've loved before who traveled in and out my door, our door, we're glad they came along. We dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before. And I think that Jim truly loves his fair share of girls. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. He was a good-looking man. But remember the bar, okay? That's probably where a lot of it came from. Okay. In that song, though, the chorus says, the winds of time were always blowing, and the winds of time continued blowing, and they just carried me right away. And we're glad they came along. We dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before. I really think that Jim had a lot of lady friends, and that's probably why he wanted to tell them thank you. That's the only thing I can figure out. Okay, last but not least, he requested that I play Peace in the Valley. So, Dana, if you want to play that for me, then I'll shut up pretty quick. Turn. there'll be peace in the valley for him. There'll be no sadness, no sorrow, no trouble I see. There'll be peace in the valley for me. And I choose to believe that Jim is in the valley where there's peace with our Lord. And in concluding, I'd like to say that I also know that he's okay now. He's not all bent over and hurting and in pain and having to be sticking with needles and all that kind of stuff. He's okay now. He was a true friend to me, a true friend for 30 years plus. And for that, I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for the people he brought to my life. And I'm grateful for the lessons he taught me. He was wonderful to me. So, if there's anybody else that would like to say anything about Jim, I'd love for you to. It's up to y'all.
What about that prayer?
We will if nobody has any comments.
You know I got to say something.
Okay,
Come on, Lois.
Okay.
You know I'm not going to mess up.
This is a little rickety here, so don't.
My name is Lois, and I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm so very thankful that my husband was, because had he not come, I would have not found the Al-Anon program, and I would not have the life that I have now. I was raised in a church. My mother drugged me there every time the door was open. I was saved and baptized, but I didn't know how to live. I found my God in these rooms with the smoking and the cussing and the crying and throwing the rolls of toilet paper back and forth up and down the tables because somebody was swallowed. Now this is a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know if y'all know about this or not, but that's what it is. And the reason this one means a lot is in here in this inscription reads 116 of 92. Harry, you and Lois are very special people to me. Happy reading. God bless and keep you well always. Love, Jim. And he made Harry very mad because he bought him a large tie. And he said, I am not decrepit. I am not blind. I can still hear. And I don't need that book. But he read it. And also, when Harry died nearly 3 years ago now, I found, there was some papers of his I hadn't gone through, even though I was still living with him. I found a piece of paper, and he at the top of it, these were Jimisms. He had come from a meeting, and Jim had said something, and he went back to the same little notebook, and he wrote the latest Jimism in there, and you could tell he had real thumbed, and it was a dirty piece of paper because he had poured coffee on it and probably some tears on it, but he would come home so mad at stuff that Jim had told him. But if he wrote it down and he reread it, he had to admit Jim was right. And he didn't like that, but he learned a lot from it. Now what I want to do, I have my own big book and all this, but if there's somebody in this group somewhere that knows of somebody that doesn't have a good book, I would love to donate it and know that it's being used. But I want to read you this part of this one page, 449. And this is just part of one of the stories. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Is that a Jimism or what? It just is. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, and I say Al-Anonism until I can accept my powerless over my alcoholic, I could not stay sober, or in my case, serene. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. And to me, that is what Jim left for us to remember. That's the Jim I know. So I'm going to leave this here, and if anyone can find someone that needs and would love to have it, I know Harry's up there, Jim's up there, Lloyd's up there, Blind Joe's up there. They don't need the book anymore, but they need somebody to have it. So I'm gonna leave it here. Please, somebody, find somebody to use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you got it?
Miss, y'all don't know me. My name is Ronnie. Lewis does.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Mr. Welch. Oh my God, I just want to cry. He's dead. He brought me at a time. I was doing 25 years, and he brought meetings to us at the prison, and it just breaks my heart. He said, "No, I was thinking. I almost didn't find a place, but I did. Thank y'all." But he was so nice. He brought us meetings to the prison, and we moved very close to him. And with his help and my grandmother, I made it this far. And thank y'all.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marcella.
Hi, Marcella.
Well, I knew him when he had about, I would say about a year of sobriety, and what happened, the reason I met him was because I was his probation officer.
Nice. Nice.
This was way before I got sober. Way before I got sober, so, and, you know, you learn a lot of things, and, you know, he was pretty comfortable with his, you know, telling me about his past and all, and, you know, as time went on, eventually, you know, his probation ended. He was on for, I guess, one of the DWIs, and this must have been in the maybe mid to late 80s when, you know, when I was supervising him. And don't try to count back how many years that was, because, you know, pending case can be, it could be 3 years, 2 to 3 years, even 5 years or more before some from the offense at the time they get placed on probation. So anyway, he did well in all, and then I happened to get sober and started running into him during the meetings. And you know, once in a while he would still bring up the fact that I used to be his probation officer, and I never, you know, after I got sober, I never looked at it that way at all. I mean, he was just another member of AA, and I really had a lot of respect for him. Then, as fate would have it, or, you know, we met again, and he started volunteering at Divert, and I happened to be working in Divert, and I mean, he was like the most faithful volunteer. I think my husband told him about it, and that's how he got involved. And even though I know he felt bad, he was already in the wheelchair, but he would show up and, you know, had a lot of wisdom to share with those guys and girls. So anyway, I'm glad I showed up today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna piggyback off of myself. Hi, I'm Keita Dickerson. I used to be the program manager of the Divert Court. I started in 2008, and Jim was there faithful every Tuesday. When we moved to Thursday nights, he would come on Thursdays, and he did not stop coming until he got sick. Once he started feeling better, he would come again. I think the last time I saw him was last May. We had our 20th anniversary in the Divert Court, and we awarded him with his faithfulness, his dedication. Anytime he showed up, if we needed him to talk to somebody one-on-one or do a group for us, he was always there, and he was the most faithful outside of you all in the Divert Court. He cannot be replaced, and we're going to miss him. We're definitely going to, excuse my attire, I want to make sure I came and paid my respects, because I have never seen anyone as dedicated as him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Anybody else? Yep.
I'm Doug. I'm alcoholic. Most of the people here. Anyway, yeah, I met Jim when I was going to Group Terrace, and one time after a meeting, he asked me. He said, "Hey," he said, "do you want to go down to prison with me? Take a meeting to prison?" I said, "Okay." So I called him, and we went down there. I said, "Well, what do you have to do when you get down there? And he said, just don't wear white. It's real simple. So we went down there and we talked a little bit going down, and you know, like we all do, had a little meeting going down. I had no idea what to expect. Had no idea. And so we went in there and we sat down, and of course it's their meeting, you know, so they didn't know what to do. And he says, well, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I don't know. And Jim says, well, Doug's here. You want to hear a story? Oh, yeah. And I'm going, you know. So they took over the meeting. They started reading how it works and started taking over the meeting. So I leaned over to Jim and I said, I didn't know I was going to tell my story down here. He says, I didn't either. It's their meeting. So I said, well, I said, what do I say? And he says, just tell them the truth, you know, and it sounds good. And then I leaned over to him again and I said, Jim, I said, I've never been to prison. He says, they already know that. You know? And I got to tell you, when they had the meeting, it was probably, I'll never forget, it was probably one of the best meetings that I've been to. And those guys are honest and straight up. And I'll tell you what, if you're quoting the big book and you said something on the big book and it was wrong, they'd straighten you out. You know, they had no problem. What else did they have to lose? You know, so that was a great experience. And I'm glad for Jim for giving me that experience and letting me have that experience. And you know, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things that I could have went to prison for, but I just didn't get caught. You know, I heard that you know, we're all felons. Some of us just didn't get caught. You know, I heard that in the media the other day, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Anyway, Jim could be pretty cantankerous. He had his way of doing things, and that's what it was going to be like. And I know he loved Alcoholics Anonymous, and he loved to help people and 12-step people. And you know, my wife was working at the Divert Court, and I was already volunteering down there. And you know, I asked him, I said, "Do you want to go down to Divert Court? You know, go down there." And he went down there, and like Keita said, he was faithful. He loved it. He loved going down there and helping people. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I want to say something. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know Jim that well. I just met him a few times, but my sponsor knew him really well. And I met him a couple of times at the anniversary because he was there with her. But, you know, that man that's here that said that he met him in prison, what he said almost made me cry because, you know, and the lady whose husband, you know, knew him. I'm an alcoholic myself, and because my sponsor knew Jim really well and what he shared with her, she's my sponsor. So now I benefit from his experience that he shared with her from when she was first sober. So that's how it works in Alcoholics Anonymous. One alcoholic sharing with another, and then that experience gets shared with another, and we all benefit, you know. And someone said Jim didn't have any family, but he has all of his family in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's why I'm here today. I live south of Tyler, 22 miles south of Tyler, but I wanted to be here today because my sponsor was very good friends with him for 30 years, and I'm here because that was her friend, and he's a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, so I'm here to support him.
Appreciate that.
And because when we lose one member of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, we've lost a member, so that's why I came. But, you know, it's important for us to be here and support a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. And
Grand sponsor.
Grand sponsor, so that's why I came. But I'm glad that guy found it, the one that knew him, you know, when he came to share meetings into the church, you know. That's why we all help each other, you know, so, and I benefited from Jim, so that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I briefly just wanted to say that Jim Trapp, when he wanted to go to a meeting, because it was on the board, on a brochure, he split town and went. I mean, it didn't matter what condition he was in, a wheelchair or not. But I think but I went to several conferences here in town. I always saw Jim there. he was, I mean, that man's the most active little booger I ever heard of. I mean, if you look at the book, and please do, he was a very active person. He was involved in so many organizations, and he never bragged. Can't say that about everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Everybody? Nobody?
Huh?
Louis, all right. Louis. I know you knew him probably longer than any of us.
I'm Luis. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Louise.
And, I sober up at the Big Town Group in June 22nd, 1982. I still a member over there. And Jim sober up in 83 in the town of Mesquite. Yeah. And at that time we visited, the groups, when we kind of visit each other. But every time he asked me, or somebody else asked me to go share in that town of Mesquite or Bruto, after Bruto closed, he moved to Bruto Terrace. He stayed with us at Big Town, by the way. Yes, you said about he was a ladies' man, believe me. He loved all the women that he saw. He loved all the women that he saw, every time that I see I saw his picture, person, and you see Kenny Rogers, they look alike, That's the one thing that I can tell you. And every time that I went to sports, or I saw him, he said, Luis, you want to speak English tonight? I said, I tried, There we go. He spoke to us in our group, One of the kickoff speakers not too long ago, by the way. And I was at the Big Town, at the Bruto Terrace, talking about the traditions. I finished the whole month, and he said, hey, the boy said, you did okay. I did his approval, But one of the things that I can tell you, since that's overall, it's part of, I've been in bunch of services, okay? Before alcoholism, I didn't go to any services at all, okay? But after overall, I've been in a bunch of services, members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you feel, I tell you what, the closest, there is a family, okay? And you feel the empty space, and it's my responsibility. This is me, okay? I don't know about you. I feel like I have a responsibility for all my friends that die in Alcoholics Anonymous, because from time to time, they put something in my life. They give me something to remember. They give me something to live for. And this is what I hear. I know I got a lot of friends in this room. Some of us, we see each other from time to time, not every day, but from time to time we see each other, okay? And I hope, all of us continue doing what we're doing. If somebody plays something, let me know. I'll be there to keep you company, okay? And thank you for that. That was good. Thank you. That was everything being said up here. That's the proper way to do it. Thank you.